what's happening, guys. Cheers. Celebrating the weekend with some biru. I'm chilling here. I'm just gonna record a little message and then I'm going off dancing. Yeah, in this little video, I don't think it's gonna be long. I always like to calibrate everything back to the way things actually are, the way what I see in the nature, the way I observe it within my own consciousness, and just calibrate everything back to the truth. And sometimes when I'm calibrating myself back to the truth, and I'm sometimes when I see other people who say like, well, that's something that is not quite right. I don't see how that it is so. And specifically, what I'm talking about is denial of your soul desires. What I observe to be happening is, on one side we have suffering, and on another side I would have to say you can call it thriving, and that corresponds to the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. There's suffering, which is what happens when you, every painful experience, you use your brain to resolve the situation, but you're just creating that structure of knowledge, memory, whatever, that coping mechanism where it perpetuates the cycle of suffering. But then the opposite is when you actually go ahead and start fulfilling your desires, not ego tantrums. So that's ego and that's your soul. But in the center, there's another thing. You can call it God, or contentment, or peace, or bliss, or that white light. So we have like this gray, black tree of knowledge, no color there, all monochrome, white light, and then it scatters into peekaboo. Soul, fulfillment of soul desire, rainbow colors, rainbow colors, white light, dark monochrome. So some people, when they discover that contentment, when they alchemize that darkness, they discover God. And so when they discover that peace and that bliss within themselves, what may appear to be so, that you no longer need the things that you were trying to get, like be happiness, finding happiness from your partner, finding happiness from your friend, finding happiness from your family, or finding happiness in society, or all these other things. Talking about specifically relationships here. And so sometimes people just stay there and float in that contentment and say, well, I don't need a partner, or I don't need family, or I don't need friends, or whatever, right? But I argue that contentment, it's not thriving. That life, when it's lived to the fullest, is actually different than contentment. That finding God is just the beginning. And once you find God, you find that base, that contentment, where now you can actually take risks in life and be totally fine. Because there's no fear of your desire being rejected, because the base is not pain anymore. The base is peace and bliss. So now you're in the perfect position to begin living your life and taking chances and fulfilling desires that you always wanted, and they were failing on the other side, on the tree of knowledge type of living. And that's why I am not life denying, I'm life affirming. And so when I see a lot of people, ending the suffering for them means contentment, and then that's it, they don't participate in life, and it's just like, and but I argue that that's just a phase. There's still a slight little fear left, because whoa, if I'm just gonna leave my, that contentment place, I'm gonna just go into people where like there's lots of chaos there, I'm gonna lose it, you know? And so, or if I'm gonna engage into another relationship, I'm gonna get hurt again. And so there's this still old belief system are still running, um, communicating that lie that you don't need it. And so that's why, to clarify this, I'm saying that there is such thing as suffering, which is a cycle of suffering. There is such thing as thriving, which is continuous fulfillment of your soul desires, one after another. And this thing as contentment. People may call it the happiness. Again, people use words, but I always like to look at geometry and the structure, because that doesn't lie. The way it is, it's the way it is. You can put the words to it, like, you can put another word for suffering, another word for contentment, another word for thriving, but you cannot deny that that structure exists. And also, speaking specifically about friends, family, and your partner, is a what you see in consciousness and in nature is that first of all, you see yin and yang, right? So you see two parts of the whole. So the first and most important thing is obviously your partner. That's the most important decision and the most important connection in your life. Well, you can float in that little boat of contentment and peace and bliss, that white light, and still being a little bit afraid to go into the rainbow colors and engage in life in a fashion of, thriving, because like you still have that little bit of fear. If you know sure, but it's like it's like holding on to, your parents' hand and not letting go. And the parents would say, like, hey, go play, it's fine now, not gonna get hurt, go play, because right now we're here, you know you're safe, go play. But you still kind of, no, I want to milk that God, that peace and that bliss that you find within yourself. You want to milk it. Uh, but um, but I'm saying that that is just a good base to have. Now you're not gonna get hurt. You can take chances. You can take risks. You're not gonna get hurt anymore. So you can totally now find. And by the way, in the consciousness, the way it's structured is like, first you have two as a whole. That's the most important thing in your life. This is why I'm not denying, just because I'm chilling here in a jungle, happy by myself. I'm not denying that that's just a base, that I totally still have my soul desires. Perhaps in the past they were failing it, not working out, but now I'm in a position where they can come true, and I do want to have these relationships in my life. I'm not denying it, because I don't want to put any kind of opinion on it. I don't like to argue with the way things are. I learned not to do this. And so if there's something about me says the opposite of what it is, and say like, well, there's somewhere there is a denial there, you know. Um, but because you do have that base, the relationships can't really hurt you anymore, really, you know. So might as well, now that sometimes I say that when you're no longer hurtable, then you're lovable, you know. And in consciousness, there is two as a whole. Then there's 12. I'm not going to go into how that happens from 2 to 12, and then from 12 to 144. But these numbers you obviously heard, and you can relate to all sorts of structures and um, systems that are out there. But there are these relationships between you. There's, as a man, you have a relationship with the feminine, the woman. That's the first and most important thing is. And as a woman, you have a relationship with the masculine. And that relationship with one woman or one uh, man is the most important one. That's going to determine how everything else gonna unfold. Then there's 12, and there's the 12 types of relationships each person has to now you can call it your family. And of course, it doesn't have to be blood family, but you're gonna have 12 connections in your life that are perfect for those 12 facets of your life. You know, and you may be like a father in one type of relationship, a son in another type of relationship, a mother in one other relationship, a sister, a brother. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, but there's these 12 of them, and then the rest of it, you take 12 times 12, and you get 144. And so these are your friends. That's your social circle, and that's at least based on you know ideal structure of consciousness. You would thrive in this life if you would have 12 family uh, relationships, one spouse relationship, and 144 friends. It doesn't have to be this way exactly, but I mean that's the structure that it is. But I think it might be something to do with that. Like if you have 104 types of connections, where it fulfills these types of, you know, it may be something you may need a partner or an opponent in martial arts, or a dance partner or whatever. There's, as an example, I'm just saying that there's 144 variations of those 12 colors, which, by the way, those 12, there's actually colors. You may say, well, wait a second, isn't it just only 7 colors? Yes, but what really is that there is these other types of colors. You can call them metallic colors: gold, silver, or bronze, for example, right? And so there are 5 of them, 5 of these colors. Actually, there are 3. There's metallic bronze, silver, and golden. Those are actually colors of consciousness, and you can call them, these are cosmic colors. These are metallic colors. Because if you look at the gold, what color is it? You can see kind of yellow, whatever. Is it really yellow? It's not really yellow, right? So that's why there are these 3 more colors. And those 2 colors that are neither rainbow, neither metallic colors, are white and black. So there are 12 of them. And you, as this point, are in a relationship with all of them. I can go a little bit deeper into this. What does it mean? I mean, those 2 primordial energies, the black or transparent, that's what you would call innocence, purity, because it's pure void. The white light, that's what you would call confidence. It's this, again, it's just one word that you can use, but it's this type of energy that just creates everything. It's just like in a lucid dream, you think of something and it's like, and it's here, and it's just completely uninhibited. That's pure confidence. That's what I call it. And then you may say, what's the red color? And in a previous video I talked about that That's how your soul is structured, actually. So white will never be white without that background, without that whole, and black will never be whole without that white. And that's why I say the yin and yang is the first and most important relationship. And it's totally fine just because we tried to make it work and try to make that, uh, you know, a happy ever after, true love type of relationship, and it didn't work. It doesn't mean that that's not the ultimate soul desire. It is. So that's what I see. That's why, when somebody says like, "Well, I don't need this and I don't need that. I don't need this type of relationship. I can just be my by myself and completely happy." Yes, you can be content. I would use the word content. You can call it that word happy as well, but that's not. Uh, but that's not. Uh, that's just the beginning of life. If you truly can be content, if you truly can be happy just by yourself with nothing, then you don't have nothing to lose. So you might as well start living. And anyway, I'm just saying that, uh, that's what I find to be the case, and uh, that's what I find some sort of sense out of this. Why some people say that, like, "Hey, I don't need this. I'm just happy as it is," and others have the contentment, have that peace, have that bliss, like me, and say that's not enough. Now I want to see what kind of form it can take, and that's why I'm interested in thriving. I use that word thriving. I'm interested in thriving, and it's related to the corrupt society that's built, that if you participate there, that's a suffering, right? And you always have to take something or do something not to suffer. But there is a correct society also, and where relationships do work out, and because there's no hurt behind it anymore, you see. So yeah, and I think that's the definition of life affirming: from suffering to contentment to thriving. And if someone says, if a lot of people, when they suffer, and then you come up with good news and say, "Hey, uh, I found out that suffering is bullshit, that there is a way to deal with that pain and that pressure that comes in every day and turn it into peace and bliss." And you would think that people receive those news well. But what I found out to be the case, that good friends of mine were not happy with this. And some friends of mine would they were so unhappy with this because because uh, they were so unhappy with this idea that I it felt like I'm always like infringing on their suffering, And then I realized, holy shit, I can't uh, really do anything about this. They still want to go on that suffering. Did not have enough of it. So you can't even sell the contentment to people. And then people who discover the contentment, um, they may be stuck with this. And then you introduce that, hey, that's just the beginning of life. There's thriving. there's thriving, and they confuse that thriving with the same type of suffering. It's like, oh no, I tried relationships, it's not for me or whatever, and so they're still clinging on there, but there's nowhere to cling. But I kind of do understand when people live in that contentment and floating in that boat, and you come in and say like, hey, let's go on adventure, and then they say like, oh no, I tried adventure, that doesn't make me happy or whatever, I don't want it. They, of course, they still have that old belief, thinking that if they're gonna leave the boat, that peace and that bliss is gonna go away, but it doesn't. But you see, it's difficult to convince people to stop suffering. First of all, they have to be done with it. This is why I say some people may be seeking that God, maybe seeking that enlightenment or whatever, which is always right here, right now, and it's there when you stop seeking. But if they're still looking and they believe that seeking is going to bring them uh, to that point, then they're not ready. But when they're done and say like, oh fuck, I can't do this shit anymore, seeking is suffering, looking for God is suffering. When they stop looking for it, and if they have somebody around them who can bring them to that peace and show that like, hey, it's right here, and it's never gone away, and there's nothing missing in this moment. It's the easiest thing to realize that how consciousness works, right? Because the second you create the movement, the searching, you are not in the contentment, right? This is why a lot of people, when they seek for a long time, then they discover it and they're in the contentment and they sit there and they don't want to leave there. It's like, oh my God, but what if I just start moving? It's going to go away, but it can't go away. It only goes away when you start thinking about the future, reminiscing about the past. Then it goes away. If you're looking for the enlightenment in the future, or you have regret in the past, then it just that goes away. But it's not that it went away, you just distracted yourself from it. You can always go back there, you know. But when you become comfortable that it's always here, it's never going to go away, and you don't have to look for it, when you become comfortable with that fact, then it's almost like, you're safe. Then you can go out and uh, play and have relationships and um, not be afraid of getting hurt. And so that's why you all these relationships will be fruitful and will be uh, thriving and will be a lot of fun. So that's what I noticed to be the case. But we're all at some. Why some people take so long and others kind of figure out and see it right away, I don't know. But I can kind of understand, if somebody discovered that peace, bliss, or he discovered psychedelics or whatever, and then like, oh shit, I don't need anything or anybody, and they're there, and then somebody is inviting them to live life, and they don't want it or they're afraid of it still, then it's all right, I guess. It's all good. It's all good in the hood. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.